Okay, this is actually unbelievable. Look at this. Palworld's 1.58 million players in a 24-hour peak. It is the fastest growing game on Steam of all time. This is the all-time chart. In fact, it's so fast growing, it is almost double what Counter-Strike 2's numbers were for a 24-hour period. Not only that, but this game is on multiple platforms. Counter-Strike 2 is not. It is a Steam game only, whereas this is on Xbox, etc. So on Game Pass, for instance. So if you look at these numbers, it's absolutely insane. But that's not the full story. We're going to talk about a little bit more of it. There's some sort of, I would call it drama, but there's some accusations, pretty serious legal accusations, and people are saying that Nintendo might try to close this one down. So let's break down what exactly is going on with Palworld. Look at this. This is Palworld themselves tweeting out third highest all-time peak in Steam history. Palworld is now just under count. In fact, it might have broken Counter-Strike 2's record by now. I saw 7 hours ago, they were at 1.6 million on the all-time peak. So these are absolutely crazy numbers with concurrent players of 1.5 million, to give you an idea of this game. So it's going absolutely insane. But the information and, should I say, drama associated with this game kind of goes a little bit farther. So there are some tweets, for instance. Look at this one. Palworld is fun. The creatures are cute, but they stole assets. They should not be doing this. It's not proper dev ethics. And if you look at it, there are some examples of, hey, look at this. Seems like a one-to-one body match of previous Pokemon. People are even calling it Pokemon because it's so close to some Pokemon. And you look at this, here's some more body assets that look similar. And then you'll scroll down, and of course, you're going to have people defending it. They're showing, hey, look, the models actually aren't the same. Like, why would you rip a modeled asset and then not reskin it? Why would you tweak the asset and make it different? Like, what's the point of stealing art if then you're going to redo it because they don't look exactly the same? But man, they do look pretty similar. So there is some drama associated around the game about some potential ethic problems with the game. There's more and more tweets I could pull up here showing more and more examples, etc. To accidentally create a complex model mesh with so near exact proportions is practically impossible. So you're going to see more and more and more of that. But Palworld themselves have actually responded. In fact, from a tweet here from Dextero, he copies it, says, currently we are receiving slanderous comments about our artists, and we are seeing tweets that appear to be death threats. So like with anything with the internet, as soon as people start talking about one thing, it's not going to be too much farther till drama follows. And with drama typically comes death threats with even stuff like this. Here, the Palworld CEO responded to allegations that the Palworld copied the 3D models of the Pokemon. So an article from the Escapist magazine here translates the CEO's tweet in a response. It was originally in Japanese, but this is sort of the translation of it. It says, I have received a variety of opinions of Palworld, but all productions related to Palworld are supervised by multiple people, including myself, and I am responsible for the production. I would appreciate it if you refrain from slandering the artists involved in Palworld. Now, that doesn't particularly say we did not steal any assets, just that he's responsible of it and he's seen the opinions and the productions were supervised by multiple people, sort of insinuating that it has been supervised, we did not rip anything, but without actually stating that. So who knows? Now, if you pull up more tweets, effectively people are talking about using AI. Basically, maybe this thing is sort of like an AI generator where what they do is they import Pokemon directly into the AI generator, and the AI generator then generates more Pokemon based upon the images it has received. That's sort of the way these AI art generators work anyway, which is why AI art was sort of in controversy beforehand, because people would say, well, if you're inputting, inspiration from the AI art and then meshes it all together, it's still sort of a ripoff. And that's kind of the argument that people are making here with the AI art generated by Palworld. How do the people respond? Well, if you look at the concurrent player base, it is still actively growing, 1.57 million players and still growing. So it would seem that the average player doesn't really care if they're ripping off Game Freaks or not. Now, this might be because, Nintendo kind of has been dropping the ball on their own IP. That doesn't necessarily give somebody a right to go and take the IP and take it for themselves now, does it? But it seems like in response to how players are actually treating this, they don't care. We have 1.57 million players and it is still actively growing. This could literally hit the largest all-time peak game ever in the history. It's number 3 right now on Steam and closing in on Counter-Strike. We're talking Counter-Strike's largest all-time peak of concurrent players, and that is absolutely insane. But there's an argument to make that this game has potentially either used assets, and I'm not saying they have, I'm just saying that if you actually look at the game, there's things that are very similar to other styles of games, okay? We have Zelda Breath of the Wild. When you click on the tower or you hear the sound effects from the towers, it is very, very similar. I mean, you play Breath of the Wild, then you play Palworlds, those audio cues are very similar. There's also the argument, well, how about Ark Survival or Ark Survival? I mean, Ark Evolved. The game is very similar in terms of the way the technology tree goes. Now, I would argue that's more inspiration than a lot of these survival games actually use it, but it is somewhat of a similar thing. So the line becomes a little bit blurred. At what point are they actually blatantly ripping things off at this point and stealing? At what point is it inspired by? The same way I would make a similar YouTube video that somebody else is making because I watched their YouTube video and I like the concept. So I'm not a lawyer. I can't tell you, okay? But what I can tell you is that the players themselves don't seem to care, and that is sort of the drama of the day when it comes to Palworlds. Is Nintendo going to close this one down? I don't know. I'm actually really curious to see how Nintendo responds to this, if they do choose to respond to this. And honestly, I'm not a lawyer, so I couldn't tell you if they're even in the legal right of it or not. But this might be a case study going into the future on how these games, let's say they did use AI art, for instance. Let's say they did actually import Pokemon into an AI generator, then made new Pokemon based off the previous ones. Is that illegal? I don't know. It's technically new assets, even if it's inspired upon the other assets. So I'm super curious to see how this gets resolved and if this actually can hit the #1 leaderboard of all time, especially when we look at, I mean, how close we're talking. At 1.57, Counter-Strike's all-time peak 1.8. I mean, PUBG at 3.2, that's going to be hard to get to, but man, you cannot get away from Palworlds right now. Everyone is talking about it. So it's going to be an interesting conversation for sure. You know, the response I think that Game Freaks would get a massive W from taking is looking at things like this and realizing people actually want Pokemon. They do want Pokemon. In fact, there's Pokemon mods literally already for Palworlds. People aren't just playing Palworlds because it's Palworlds in a good game. They're playing it because they remember and have nostalgia for Pokemon. And Nintendo really hasn't been delivering upon this IP, which is why we're seeing games like this sort of take the reins and sort of run with it, which shows me that there is a huge market opportunity for Nintendo themselves to actually take, and if you didn't realize it, Pokemon is the largest franchise of all time. I'm talking it beats McDonald's, okay? We're talking the largest franchise of all time. There's a massive opportunity to stop dropping the ball with mid or arguably bad Pokemon games that are coming out on years-old platforms that are running at 10, 15, 20 frames a second in a day and age when you can play something like this with technology like this, with game modes that are multiplayer. You can have a dedicated server. I mean, you can fly your own Pokemon, do it in a 3D world and actually look around with it. They take the best parts of basically Breath of the Wild, the best parts of Pokemon, and the best parts of games that are survival games like Valheim or Ark Survival, and they sort of meshed it all together and delivered upon a game that is now actually kind of hitting everyone's nostalgia just perfectly. So is it being so successful because people want Pokemon? Yes. But is it actually Pokemon? Are we going to see a legal consequence for the actions of this? I don't know. Not yet. It's too early to decide. And I'm not going to say eager because I actually don't want this game to get closed down. I'm like the other 1.5 million players concurrent. I want the game to get closed down. It's fun. It's super fun. But in terms of what the lawyers are going to figure out or whether or not this thing is actually allowed to be involved, well, we're going to have to wait and see what exactly is going on. But for today, you can actually play as Ash Ketchum against Jesse in Palworlds, or at least until Nintendo has something to say about it. That's about it. Consider liking and subscribing if you want to, or else don't worry about it. Have a wonderful day.